Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to another day. The more you know, the more you grow. So let's get into what is happening today. You guys know what today is, right? I know you know. It is Thursday, Thriving Thursday. Welcome back. If you joining me at right now, please put hey, how you doing? Hello, what's up in the comments. I'm going to get my Facebook app up so that I can comment with you. Oh, I can see your comments. It came up right away. That's great, right? So if you are catching the replay, make sure you hit hashtag replay. All right, everybody, you know what today is Thriving Thursday, where we bring on a guest who is not only thriving in their personal, professional life, but they are helping others thrive around you. And our special guest today will have you turning your wheels about money, going to get you to think differently about your finance. Her name is Asia K, and she is the owner of Quantum Wealth Strategy. Let's give some love to Asia. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. I got some good sleep last night. I'm off to a good start at work today, and I'm about to have a great conversation.
That's right. That's how you roll, right?
hmm
All right.
hmm
So, Asia, tell me a little bit about you. Who is Asia? What do you do? A little bit about your business, the quantum wealth strategy. Tell us a little bit about that.
okay. Well, there's a lot to say in that whole span of things, but to keep it relevant to why we're here today. So I grew up in Austin, Texas, with a single mom, and when you talk about the quantum wealth theory in Ace Financial Matters, I started this company to teach kids about money because growing up with that single mom, I what I realize now was a poverty environment that I grew up in. And that's just because with two kids and hearing her say over and over, we can't afford that. Other people can, but we can't. There's always bills to pay. I had this programming growing up that was going to be my situation, unless I got the good job. So she encouraged me to be a good saver because I grew up what I know now was a hoarding mentality. I used to hoard money because I heard that it was always going to escape us. And so because she told me I was a good saver, I went to school for accounting and finance. So that's how I got into the industry because she said, you're good at saving money. You're good with money, Asia. You should go to school and get the good job so you don't struggle like I did. And so I did. I went to school, got the good job, worked for 6 years in the accounting industry until I realized it was an Achilles tendon. When I ruptured my Achilles tendon, it cost me $5,000 in surgery. And it was in 2017 when this happened. And I realized at that moment that technical financial knowledge wasn't enough to change the programming that I had that I grew up with. And so at that moment, that's when I started to learn, research, and what ended up being this quantum wealth theory. And I know we'll get into it, the details of, exactly what happened from 2017 till now. But that's just kind of the background about me and how my experience led to what we're talking about today.
Wow. I ain't never heard nobody say they hoard money. That's a good quality to have, right?
Well, that's the thing. It can be good when you have plans for it. You're not hoarding it out of fear. You're saving and planning ahead for it. And so I feel like for me, it could have been good if I didn't have that emotion of I was scared that it was going to escape me or that there was going to be something that came up that, was out of my control. And so it was really the emotion I had behind the action that determined whether it was good for me or bad for me. Because everybody, has different emotions, different feelings, and ultimately different goals. And so that's what,
Mhm,
we talk about is in the quantum wealth theory that everybody's unique. And so this
mhm.
cookie cutter idea of the American dream and success, people feel like they're struggling because that's not really what they want and they're not driven to, meet that. And so that's a part of the work too, is taking the time to self-reflect, like you talk about your core values, to know what you truly will really want out of life, and then putting a financial plan that meets that picture, not some random, number, status, job type or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Just being authentically you to fulfill those needs. Um,
Yes.
it's interesting how you talked about when you were younger, the things your mom said to you to help frame your mindset. Unfortunately, we do that as parents. Even when we got money, we'll tell our
Ooh.
kids, I ain't
Yes.
got no money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are programming them to
Mm,
think either money is not good, money is
mm-hmm,
bad, or I just don't have money because I don't have
mm-hmm,
access to it.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, even when you do got money, so going back to the mindset piece about the money, changing working with the parents to use the right verbiage with their
Mm-hmm.
kids. So as they
Yes.
continue to grow, they know, oh, I have access to this. I could grow this. I could do this.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have to go without.
Yes.
So I think that
Yes.
is very important as far as changing that mindset about,
Yes.
we ain't got no money, even when you
Yes.
got money.
Yes. Yes. And that's exactly why I wanted to focus on with the kids. Originally, when I
Mhm.
started this company, it was to develop programming for the kids, which I will get back to. But I pivoted when I realized that with the programming, when I realized that that's the most important piece, I decided to create this, fundamental guidebook, if you will, for those parents that are raising the kids that will ultimately be my next target audience to serve. How helping them to have this new framing so that as we teach the kids, they're not undoing all that work when they go home into these same households. And so, just like you said, working with the kids, being able to, because if the whole idea is programming, if we get in there before the programming sets in, they're much more flexible to learn new information. They haven't had the 10, 20 years of, same programming, whether it's from the
Mhm.
parents at home, the teachers at school, being out in the real world, just hearing, all the problems without understanding where the root of those problems come from and the possible solutions to deal with them.
Yep. It is important to talk to the parents to get to the kids. And also, maybe this might be something you're gonna add to the school system. You never know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Never
ma'am.
know.
Yes.
Um, so tell me, one of the strategies you use to work with these parents to help them shift their mind.
Yes. So I'll answer that in two ways, because the second way will be the strategy, some of the strategies I use to help people shift their minds, have a new paradigm to look through. But the first part of that is just providing information. Before telling you strategies about how to change what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're feeling about money, before telling you how to do that, I provide information about why it's happening and the foundation of the subconscious programming, how it was developed, how we can reprogram it, how emotions and brain heart coherence scientifically, when you align your logical financial plan with your true heart's desires, like we said, it's custom. I call that the North Star vision, because only you know what's going to motivate you to keep working every day. I'm talking about scientific reasons on why our neuroscience has us to go against our logical plans, because over evolution we were designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain. Just like the same area that triggers that fight or flight. Like, these are instinctive desires that we have, and if we don't understand how that's happening, then we just, call it impulse shopping or retail therapy, or, you binge out on, whatever it is. But if there's a financial effect of those habits, then that's what I'm talking about here. And so, first of all, is providing the information, and then some of those strategies. The first one that comes to mind is exactly that North Star vision, is providing a template to help people take the time to walk through that process of painting that ideal picture. Because what I've learned and what I've experienced myself is, people can get caught up living day to day, focusing on the next bill, the next check, that not everybody feels like they have the luxury to just pause and daydream about, what ideally they would want. And so it's like providing a framework and a space for people to go through that exercise to at least paint that picture. And then, if they're interested in to continue, then we can work through the process of actually putting it to a financial plan and realizing what your subconscious personal obstacles are, and putting solutions in place for those specific obstacles. And so, that's the information. And then that first strategy of helping you paint that picture, that at least you have reason to change the behavior.
Mm-hmm. And when you say paint that picture, that's the same thing she's saying as you're visualizing. And I know y'all know that, but that is a very, very strong part of fulfilling your future, fulfilling the things that you want, is painting that picture in your head. And again, like you said, because as children, we're told there's no money. I think that could be a reason why we don't dream. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no money. So why should I dream? Why should I think I'm going to go on this island when I ain't got no money? So that kind of makes sense a little bit as far as you wanting them to visualize it first, because it kind of brings it into reality.
Yes, at that first level.
Yes. And I will tell you, I used to didn't visualize. I didn't used to dream, even though I thought I was, until I actually learned how to dream. And that's engaging all of your senses. You need to feel like $1 million if you want $1 million. You need to feel like you own an island if you want an island. You need to smell the sand and hear the ocean. So visualization, I love that aspect of what you offer, to put a picture with the dollar bill. That dollar bill represents something.
Oh man. Okay, so I think you're gonna love this, because from what you just said, I just have two examples of when I talk about information, providing the information that helps to ultimately shift that paradigm. One is about the physics of quantum physics, and I've been coached to, give a disclaimer that quantum wealth theory that does reference quantum physics for two of the key principles that proves this theory that I have, that money is not just the physical tangible dollar, that there's this flip side of the coin that is influenced by our thoughts, energy, emotions, feelings, words, action, beliefs. And I can prove this in this theory using quantum physics. And so I say all that to say, quantum physics isn't as complex as people make it seem. It really is just the study of energy. And so I'm going to tell you two examples that talk about what you mentioned about bringing it into reality by visualizing, and then engaging the five senses.
All right, go ahead. I'm ready for it.
Okay. All right. So one of the three principles from quantum physics that I bring in is called the observer effect. And the observer effect is the result from this experiment this guy did. They called it the double slit experiment. And basically, quantum, the study of energy, that means it's the material particles of the universe at the smallest fraction. So particles, that's electrons and protons. That's the little balls of photon light down to the smallest piece, even smaller than atoms, that they were manipulating. So it's the double slit experiment. They were shooting these little photon light particles through this double slit. And when it ended up on the back wall, it made a pattern as you expected, 2 lines of these photon balls. So, I'm sorry. On the first time, it made a pattern that looked like it was spread out over ripples, like waves of energy, and the physical particles. Because the physical particle you'd only expect to hit in those 2 bands, but instead they were spreading out across the whole back wall. So the observer effect comes in because they put a metric device close enough to that double slit on the backside to see how are these particles behaving when it came out, to see get a closer idea of how it made that pattern. But as soon as they put that tool there to observe the behavior, the pattern changed and they started hitting in the two slits as expected. And so they call this the observer effect because it says that you can change the effect or the result of a physical particle by simply observing its behavior. And so when you talk about in the terms of money, even if you don't change your behaviors, simply putting all your numbers on paper and observing those behaviors would be enough to change it one direction or another. And so that's why when they talk about attention being a currency, your attention and further energy alignment behind those goals and your heart's desire will further influence your behavior, because that's what science tells us happens, especially when you put intent behind it.
I love that. Attention being your currency. So the more
Yes.
you pay attention to what you want, the faster and more you would get it. I love that.
Yes.
I love that. And that observing activity that you said they just did. Now, I am an energy person. I believe in energy. I believe in the whole molecules, all of that stuff also. But I'm just curious, when they did it the first time, they didn't predict where it would go, but how come it predicted to go to the certain spot on the second time?
So the prediction is because if the double slit itself is just a stationary, let's call it a wall that has two slits, the prediction is if you were to throw paint or something liquid at this wall, it would only show up on the backside wall in the pattern of those two slits. That's the natural prediction, because physics tells us if something hits this wall and they're only going through the two slits, they should come out as two slits on the back wall.
Okay.
But because it didn't show up that way, it showed up. There was and there's a video of it. There's like an animated 5-minute video that shows it and explains it. But when it showed up, it was like 6 or 7 bands on that back wall, and not just the 2 that they expected, which is what prompted them to put the observing tool to see closer how these particles were behaving when they came out the other side of that slit.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up. That's cool. So, let me ask you, I heard you have some kind of program, 7 steps of quantum wealth. What is that program? How long does that tell us about that program?
Yes. So
and when did you come up with this program? I'd like to know that too.
Yes. So to tell you about the program, I'm going to give you that second piece. Okay. Because you just mentioned about the energy senses. And so the 5 senses in our brain, they call it the reticular activating system, RAS. That's a short piece of the back of the brain that's related to that old evolution of fight or flight. And every single stimulus that your 5 senses takes in, it could be thousands or even millions per second and per minute. You're seeing things that you're not paying attention to. You're feeling things, the clothes on your skin. You're tasting things. You're smelling things. So all of the stimulus that you're pulling in every second, that reticular activating system acts as a filter for all of that information. And so, again, going back to the evolution, that was used for, if you're on the Havana, if you saw a saber-toothed tiger, your reticular activating system would filter that to make it relevant for you. But in the same distance, it could have been a bird flying off and you might not have paid attention to it because the RAS system determined that it wasn't relevant for your focus or your goals. And so saying that to say, if we know the popular example is like, if you start Googling red Volkswagen Beetle, and then you're looking at it, you're shopping for prices, and then you leave it alone. And for the next week or so on the street, you see more red Volkswagens than you ever have in the year before. And that's because you just programmed your reticular activating systems to say, red Volkswagen Beetles are now relevant to me. This is a part of my goal. And so now the RAS now filters in more information to your conscious mind of what you've programmed to say, this is important and relevant for me. And so that's one of the steps. It's number 4 of the 7 steps of the quantum wealth theory. That's about actually programming the wealth mentality. And so just to give you the 7 steps, the quantum wealth theory, and then I'll tell you where I started, where I came up with this and when.
Okay.
Um, so the 7 steps, it's to reprogram your money beliefs, behaviors, and actions by aligning it with the goal that you truly desire for your own personal values. Step number 1, understanding your default program. What is this layers of consciousness? What is my self-conscious logical planning mind versus my subconscious repressed emotions, inflexive, reflexive behaviors? That's step number 1. Step number 2 is what is the money history and science. So that's where we talk about the history of money. It started from barter as a way to exchange value with each other, then to transfer that value over time and space. They created dollar bills. And so it just gives you the history of money, so that when we talk about, there's 2 sides of the coin, the physical money, the cost of something versus the value that you get, because that's unique to everybody. For somebody who's uh, dehydrated in a desert, the value of a water bottle is more than the $2 that it would cost us for
Mhm.
going to the store. And so walking through the money and history of science is number 2. And the science also includes that quantum physics, bringing some of those principles to understand how our energy actually influences our money actions. It also talks about um, how chronic stress over time leads to heart condition, which is one of the number 1 killers in our community specifically. So just talking about our emotions and chronic stress behind money, how that can really contribute to our health. So bam, that's number 2. Number 3 is turbo emotion. And that's where that North Star vision comes in, understanding how aligning our head's plans with our heart's desires, it's like you said, feeling those emotions of this ideal vision today, how that will charge you to align your actions with those future goals. Then number 4 is that wealth mentality. We talked about what makes our programming, what the background of money is. We talked about how to supercharge our efforts. And now we finally building in that new wealth mentality. And that's where understanding how that reticular activating system works. And then number 5 is vehicle upgrade. And this is where we go and reflect on some of the popular glitches that lots of people in our society have, like impulse buying, retail therapy, bargain hunting. Just go over all of the different obstacles that you might come across. Number 6 is choosing your destinations. Now, finally, oh wait. So 5 also includes like the basic fundamentals of investing in retirement planning, because while this workbook is not to give you like the basics of financial literacy, like there's nothing about credit in here. It's more of just to give you that foundational understanding about how money works, what's the overall goal of all this time and attention we spend on money. And so it just gives the fundamentals about investments and how ROI is the name of the game, if you're going to leverage for it, what to look for. And then same thing with retirement, just reflecting on the history of 401ks, how pensions are phasing out, how Social Security, 20 years from now won't be something we can rely on. And so just understanding how to look at your strategies and possibilities, which includes life insurance as a living benefit. So number 6 is choose destinations. And that's where you actually pick your savings targets and your investment goals, because we're not just saving for a rainy day in the future. We're saving for intentional plans. We want to invest this much. We want to save this because we know that we have a purchase coming up. And so every dollar is accounted for. And then finally, in mission 7 is called autopilot. And that's where you set up your reoccurring systems, I call it a profit model and not a budget, because it talks about how looking at your personal life like you look at a business will allow you to optimize how you spend your dollars and take advantage of the business and tax strategies. And so, yeah, number 7 is just about put everything on autopilot so that you know what the plan is, you have a way to track against it. And with this system in place, you give yourself the peace of mind, at least, and the freedom from having to stress about what are your money doing, what's your plan, and how you're looking towards it.
So, do you actually help them, teach them how to invest, or you are more about teaching the fundamentals so that you can make the best choice for yourself.
The second one,
Okay.
1000%.
Okay, so
Mhm.
you're not out there doing bitcoins or teaching them how to invest and all that stuff. You're literally breaking down their minds about money and
Yes.
rebuilding it back up so that
Yes.
now they're able to make different decisions than they used to because their mind is reprogrammed.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Okay, okay. I love that. It's like going
Yes.
back down to the core, going back to that
Yes.
core so that
Yes.
you understand why we choose to do the things we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
understand, well, this type of investment and this type of investment. So you
Yes.
understand your options.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly it. And I wrote this, I dedicated, I have a list of dedications, but to my younger self, because these are the questions obviously that I asked once I realized, but this is how I learned, I recognized my actions weren't lining up with my goals, but for some reason I didn't have the power or know where to go to change that, a misalignment. And so I had to go in. Why do I behave the way I behave? So you asked, when did I start putting this together? Because that answers exactly this. So I told you the Achilles tendon injury was in 2017. And aside from just having to charge $5,000 on credit because I didn't have any savings, I felt like my livelihood was threatened because I needed to take off work from home for a month. That was before work from home was a thing. And so in 2017, that's when I decided I was going to start developing this program to teach kids about money. And that's when I decided to start business to generate my own income because I didn't want to be at risk from losing a job because of a freak injury like an Achilles tendon accident. So bam, that was 2017. And then after about a year or so, realizing that the revenue generation, okay, and I'm gonna give you the real good story, good piece too, because
Where, where,
back
where my
in,
where my track?
look, I'm giving you the insider scoop because in 2009, while I was still in undergrad, I remember I wrote a note to myself saying that I wanted to work for myself by the time I turned 30 years old.
Mm.
And I'm like 19, 18 at that time. So I
Wow.
had that note. It was always in the back of my head. So in 2017, I'm 28 years old, or 27 going on 28.
Uh-huh.
So I decided to start business, got the LLC started researching. About a year in, I realized that revenue wasn't coming in at the pace that I expected. And I still wanted to reach my goal of working for myself by the time I'm age of 30. So saying all that to say, I positioned myself to quit my job in 2019. And I spent the next 4 years as a full-time entrepreneur. So that's when I officially, and it was quarantine, from 2019, I was, developing this after school kids program, a chore and allowance system. That was my research and development phase. And then once 2020 hit, it was like right when quarantine was mandated, the idea just came about a workbook for the parents. And so since then is when I started developing the quantum wealth theory. And that's just pulling the information from the last 4 years that I've been putting together around it, all the research, just combining everything that I learned about finance, brain psychology, behavioral psychology, and then we get into the quantum physics at some point, just because we were all locked down, and that was my outlet. I realized is creating this or channeling this. It feels like sometimes, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's when it came through. And so 2020, I started. 2022, I hosted those beta workshops. So here we are now, coming up on launching the second edition that has more of that interactivity and action-based curriculum.
Wow, second edition. We are on the
Yes.
second edition. So it's really
Yes, ma'am.
funny how we're doing all this research, we're gathering it, but we don't know what we're gonna do with it. It's just a very good interest for us. And because
Yes.
you are so in tune with yourself, you were able to receive the message why you were doing all that stuff to put it
Yes.
together for adult
Yes.
workbook.
Yes.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I did. I chronicled my process of how I am still going through the process of reprogramming my beliefs and
Did
behaviors
you just
around
have
money.
an aha moment on here?
I sure did. I sure did. Wow.
Oh
In the
wow.
moment while I was doing it, putting it together. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes that's just to say, sometimes you don't know what the mission is, what the call is, why you're doing the things you're doing, or you just have an interest in it and you're doing it because you plan on doing it. But there's always a reason. If you're doing it and you're aligned with your energy, it's going to
Yes.
come out when it's ready. It's going to come out
Yes.
when it's ready for you to be like, put this together now.
Yes. 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 Man. And I know that feeling too.
Uh-huh.
The first time I resisted it a little more, but now I know that feeling. It's time to put it together, and that's why I say second edition, because I realize it is evolving. Like as I continue to learn naturally, I'll be able to add more.
Yes. Well, I think what you have so far is great. I love the 7 steps that you have. It really, to me, it really will educate people on what dollar bills is, what money is, what is it like. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we only have so much value on a dollar that we put on the dollar. A dollar could be worth a lot of money, or it can
Mm-hmm.
be worth a penny. So,
Yes.
I really love that you and a lot sometimes people don't even have value on money. They don't even have the value, so money don't even come to them because they don't value it.
Yes. Yes. And I think that goes both
Mhm.
ways. Like whether you don't value it or you realize that you put the value on it, either one way it repels it or the other way, it's kind of like because if you realize a lot of the money terms have a reference to like water analogies, like the bank, liquidity, cash flow. And so, when
Mm.
you talk about money as a currency, it's supposed to flow. And so, like, same example as we talked about earlier about me hoarding money, you know, stopping up that currency flow. Like, you're supposed to flow money. Like, people, like, you can't save your way to wealth. That's a phrase that I've heard a
Mhm.
lot over these last years. And it's exactly that, especially when you talk about the printing mechanism of our US economy, you know, that's part of the investing fundamentals that I share. Like the whole goal is just to beat inflation because that's one of the things that you can't control. And so whether you're investing in business, the stock market, precious metals, whatever your goal is, that's the goal of investing. It's not to delay your gratification, it's to beat inflation because, we all have long-term plans. I'll say if you have a long-term plan and retirement's at a certain age, you won't be able to um, use your physical labor after a while. And so that's the fundamentals of investing. And so, like you were saying about currency flow, you can't block up that flow. You have to spend to let it come to you. And if you hoard onto it, then you're blocking your possibilities.
Mhm.
Is the theory that I'm working here.
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So, is there anything you're working on, or you have anything else you'd like to share with us that we did not cover?
Well, this is my first time having the opportunity to really explain the 7 steps of the quantum wealth theory. And so, as far as what I'm working on here in Atlanta, Georgia, on March 30th, I'll be hosting a beta workshop series. And I say beta just because it's going to be a full either 8-week series or a 2-day retreat. But for now, I'm testing it out in a 1-day setting. And
Yeah.
so on my website, you can go to ACE FM, like ACE Financial Matters, acefm.us. Also on Instagram at Asia, it's at AsiaK.247. Also pre-ordering the second edition. The launch date is scheduled for March 15th. And so a link in bio, you can download the white paper, read about the 7 steps, get on the list for the pre-order. And yeah, or check out the workshop if you're in the area.
Okay. So, is this your first release book on when you coming up on the 7th, you said?
On the March 15th is the release. And for the first edition, I did like a soft launch. I just told, family and friends in my immediate I mean, I guess it's still kind of the same thing. I will run ads though for the second edition. I'll say that. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
guess
Will
it's
it
the
be on
first public
Amazon?
launch.
Will it be
Yes.
on Amazon? It'll be on Amazon. And the title of that's going to be called what again? Remind the people.
Quantum Wealth Theory, second edition.
Y'all write that down. Quantum Wealth Theory,
Oh yeah.
second edition. So
Oh
make sure
yeah.
you write those down.
And I forgot the domain quantumwealththeory.com, that's pointing to the other one. So you can do that too. Quantumwealththeory.com.
Okay. So when we get off of here, if you go
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, you can drop all those links in the comment also so that people will find them. And where are
Yes.
you hosting your workshop at in case there's anybody in the area? Is it going to cost anything? Can they just come? How's that going to work in case anyone wants to come? Because this is a good program that it sounds like. And I talked to you guys the other day about coaches and mentors and that. And one of the things I mentioned was what if you can find a coach that is beta testing, that is one of the great times to get in because you can get to know the coach before investing a lot of money. So, beta
Mm-hmm.
testing, search for those. And she's got one coming up. So, tell us about it, where it's at, and if it
Yes.
costs anything.
Yes. So it's in Pittsburgh Yards, which is on the south side near the stadium in Atlanta, on the south
Okay.
side of the old stadium. And the retail ticket price is $100, but for your audience, we'll do 25 just to cover the basic costs.
Y'all hear that? $25.
Yes.
But you got to
Yes.
mention the show.
Yes.
Mention Thriving Thursday, and you can get 75% off. Look
Yeah.
how I worked them numbers.
Yes, I know, right?
I love it. You can't beat that price, and you have time to get it. This is not until March 30th, so make sure you check her out. I'm sure there's going to be some advertisement coming in, but this is the pre-sale. So make sure you
Yes.
mention Thriving Thursday to get that $25 price. And if you are struggling with keeping money in your bank account or in your pocket, I advise you to go check it out because there's probably something deeper that is stopping you from receiving it.
Amen.
Yes. Do you have any parting words for us or anything like that?
Just the last thing is I always like to end with this, and it's to be easy on yourself. And that's always a reminder for me because we're talking about, if not decades of programming with our own life, but sometimes generations of habits, behaviors, emotions. One of the chapters talks about the science, the epigenetics, and being able to express our genes differently with some of these energy intentions. And so saying that to say this process of reprogramming, I've been working on it, let's call it since 2020. And I'm still learning every day and realizing, some of the old things that come up. And so it's just give yourself grace, be easy. It's not an overnight thing, but staying focused. I realize that you really can feel some of those benefits, even if, the numbers in your bank account may not show it yet. You can still feel that feeling when you're working on it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you for having us. Make sure you show Asia some love. Leave her some comments. She will come back and comment on those also. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
All right. I'll see you later.
Peace.
All right, everyone. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? Make sure you hit hashtag replay if you are catching the replay. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Asia. I hope you got some value from it. And remember, the money always goes back to the mindset, and your attention is your currency. So pay attention, learn, and align with the things that you want, the things that you desire, your true, authentic self. I hope you have a great day. Have a transformative day. Stay open to awareness and let the what? Unknown of the possibilities come rolling in. I'll talk to you later. Bye.